Hi, welcome to Steven 2 1967. This is my Diablo Crusader, and I thought I'd show you what I'm using currently to work on Greater Rifts with in Reaper of Souls patch 2.4 Season 5. This is the Crusader Invoker set that you get when you're leveling up. The way you get this set is you level up a Crusader to level 70. You get a bag with 2 items in your mail, and it has 2 items for the Invoker set. Then you kill Zoltan Kuhl at level 70, and you get another 2 bags in your mail for the Invoker set. And then you do a Greater Rift 20, and you get the final bag in your mail with the final 6. The 2 pieces to finish the 6 set for the Invoker. My ultimate goal is to work on a Legacy of Nightmare set using the same kind of skills I'm using. Bombardment with Thorns is my is the damage increase, but I haven't been able to get a good year yet for my Legacy of Nightmare. I'm trying to wait until I can get all ancients before I start building it. I've tried recently running around with these are the items that right now I have for Legacy of Nightmare. No, they are not the optimum items, but they are what I have. Some are ancients, some are not. Some are considered the best ones, some are not necessarily the best ones you use for the Crusader Legacy of Nightmare Bombardment Thorns build. So here anyway, this is what I'm working with. I've got myself up to Greater Rift 60 using this gear. So it's all built on Thorns, and we want to increase the amount of Thorns we have through using certain items and abilities that will increase this amount of damage. And then with the abilities, we'll add multipliers to increase the amount of damage that Thorns does when we pop Bombardment, because this is our main damage dealer. So, well, actually I should show you first. What's important will be Vitality. Make sure Vitality is on every item we have, because we have in our Keanu's Cube Heart of Iron, and that's gain Thorns equal to 300% of your Vitality. So all my items I'm trying to have with Vitality on them so that they can increase the base amount of Thorns I have to work with. And then the next thing I will be looking at doing is trying to add re-enchant the gear so that if it has Thorns as an ability, I will add Thorns to it. But if it has something like reduce cooldown of all skills, or if it maybe has area damage, if I already have something like reduce cooldown of all skills already built in the gear, then I'll look for either Thorns or a chance to deal area damage. So what makes this really work very well is the damage that we're doing from this isn't the big source of our damage. As I said, it's mostly coming from Bombardment and from using all these skills that add multipliers to increase the amount of damage Thorns does once it hits Bombardment. Once I hit that skill, if I line these up correctly, the amount of damage this will do will be millions and millions, well, at least with this gear. For the higher end, I'm sure it's more like billions and billions of damage that they're doing. So the way it would work is we have a Steed Charge. So you can run through enemies unhindered for 2 seconds. Warhorse deals 50% of your Thorns every second to enemies which you ride through. Now, I was lucky to get Flail of the Charge and the Shield of the Steed early on. And if you look at this set bonus, this actually kind of works really well with what I have. So, 2 set, increase the duration of Steel Charge by 2 seconds. In addition to killing an enemy, reduces the cooldown of Steed Charge by 1 second, and gain 100% increased damage while using Steed Charge for 5 seconds after it ends. So you can use Steed Charge to, or when you use Steed Charge, you gain 100% more damage, and then for 5 seconds after, you gain another 100% more. So the way I would do it is I would use abilities, try lining them up, like I would use Steed Charge to get the 100% damage increase. Then I would pop like Aircat's Trampion to get more damage increase. Shield Glare for the stun and the damage, and the enemies that are blinded, or blinded, not stunned, take 20% more damage. Use Iron Skin to increase the amount of thorns, and it would be preferable to use this first before we use Bombardment, because then we can increase the amount of thorns here, so it goes from 200 to right up there, 800. And then when we use Bombardment, that's based on what our base thorns are at. So we try to pop this before we use Bombardment. We also have the Belt of the Trove, and that's based, that uses also Bombardment every 7 seconds. It's be preferable to get 6 every 6 seconds to just do a little bit more damage. You see that I'm using the diamonds instead of using strength gems or using a vitality gem. I've thought about the possibility of making this all vitality to build up the amount of vitality that I have, which would work off my Heart of Iron. Thorns gets more damage, so more vitality makes this bigger, which means when I pop these things, the multiplier for this gets really big. But right now I find that I need more toughness than everything else. I need survivability, so I'm sticking to using these resist all elements so I can build up more survivability. Because for me, what I like to do, I'm not one who likes to move around too much, and I know that as you get higher levels, greater rifts, you're going to have to keep moving. You can't afford to get hit even once by ads, or they'll one-shot you. And to work with my approach to doing damage, which is to try to round up stuff and then stand and DPS in one spot, will be the Traveler's Pledge set. While moving, damage taken is reduced by up to 50%, so if I get in a little trouble, I can move around, and while I'm moving, I'm taking less damage. And then while standing still, damage is increased by up to 100%. Again, that's another multiplier to add to what I'm doing with Bombardment. Now, on top of that, this Invoker set, you see the 2 set, the 4 set, 6 set. So the big deal with the 2 says your thorns damage now hits all enemies 15 yards radius. Each time you hit an enemy with punish, slash, or block an attack, your thorns is increased by 25% for 2 seconds. Now, because I have such low cooldown reduction, and what I have heard and understand is optimum is to shoot for about 61% cooldown reduction, and that means that's mostly for Steed Charge, because with certain abilities and cooldown reduction to make this last longer with the right amount of reduction and abilities, you can basically be non-stop on your steed. You can just spam this thing, and even though it says 16-second cooldown and you only get 2 seconds, well, it can be extended to the point where the cooldown lines up right with where you would stop where the ability would end, and so you can constantly be riding on your Steed Charge, which is great. And you see it does 500% of thorns every second to enemies with which you ride, so you'd be like, okay, we're going to pop this, Iron Skin, get increased to thorns damage, pop this, stun them, additional damage, and then ride the Steed Charge through them, doing 500% of, whatever I have in my thorns that's at that time. So this set really builds in upon itself. Nothing here is really unnecessary or needed. It all builds upon each other. The reason why I use Punish again is this isn't a set where I can be constantly using an ability to either help survive, help blind, or help damage, or line up for my big damage bombardment, because my cooldown isn't very high yet. I I find myself for 3 seconds with nothing to do. So you use punish. But punish is useful here because it helps you to build attack speed, and it also works with the 2-set bonus here as well as the 6-set bonus here. So for any of you guys who are having a hard time building a lawn build, or for those of you who just, you don't want to do that. You don't want to waste time. You want to be able to enjoy the game. You want to get up to Torment 10. This is Torment 10 ready. I can crush Torment 10 rifts with no issue. I can kill any boss with this super fast. This doesn't require non-stop farming. Once you build this, you can do Torment 10. You can do very high greater rifts. You can't do the highest. This is not a competitive build. This is get this gear. Blizzard has already given you this gear. All you're doing is you're adding a few items that are quality of life that are going to make this set really, really good, so you can go to Torment 10 without dying, kill stuff fast, so you're not spending a lot of time grinding rifts or doing bounties or just killing bosses for chance drops. Also on top of that, I have Unity, again for my survivability. My Templar has one of the rings. He's basically your standard Templar. Probably one thing I dislike the most, but also like the most, is he's coming to the aid and knocking back enemies. I hate that because most builds rely on you grouping up enemies so you can do your AoE damage to them because you have a limited range. But without this, I find that if I do Inspire, of course, this is a non-Fury generating build. I could have one Wrath. Did I say Fury? Pardon me. Wrath. I could have one Wrath and still be able to use everything and never have to worry about being out of Wrath. So this is a non-Wrath spending build. So I've tried this where it's like, this doesn't really help anything. I just put this in there and I'll be just fine. But then there'll be moments when I need this. I need him to knock ads away from me because I'm stuck and I'm dying. And without this, I'll die way too much. So I keep this. It's like, I hate it and I love it. And I gotta kind of have it. And then he's got your standard. He's got your shield for freezing the attackers, for pulling enemies in so you can help build up a big group of enemies to kill. This is Unity to help my survivability. Lightning damage for stun. You got lightning damage here, and then you got your stun here, and then he's unkillable. Also, what else? Didn't talk about that. It's just double the number of bombardments. Again, this build is all about your bombardment, lining that up, because that's where most of your damage is going to come from. Convention of Elements. So, Convention of Elements. This set doesn't have a lot of different elements. It has two basic elements. One is holy and one is physical. Now, holy I don't have as damage ability. It's mostly as a blinding. It's something to help reduce damage and give me more survivability. So Convention of Element for holy doesn't really benefit me very much. Where it does benefit me is on the physical damage. So the abilities are all lining up with physical elements of physical stuff like this. Again, this is just, these are buffs. This is survivability. This is just a self buff. But these are my damaging abilities. They're all physical. And the way this works and how it helps again build by multipliers is once you hit this Convention of Element for physical for 4 seconds, you have 200% increased damage. So you could run in with your steed charge, and yes, you're getting you're already getting thorns damage, but you're also getting the buff from here, and then you're popping your Aircats champion to get more damage and additional survivability. You're blinding them to give more damage on top of that, popping Iron Skin for survivability as well, increasing the amount of thorns you have. So thorns goes up huge. And then you pop bombardment and when you do this. When you do it right, when you get it lined up, and even better when you get this propping at the same time, it's they just die so fast. Everything dies so fast. 1 minute you'll be like they're 25%. Next minute it's like everything's gone. The whole board is clear. It was like, what the hell happened? Well, yeah, bombardment is what happened. Okay, it's not. This didn't do it. This helps to build again upon the set and what everything else does here. Again, you see I'm not doing critical hit chance here. I'm throwing my ability into physical, and you see this happens to have thorns damage on top of that, so that's preferred. Yeah, my gems, stricken, you can go with Bane of the Powerful if you want. This is must-have for this because you're adding thorns, which is where your damage is going to be coming from. Esoteric, that's just survivability, purely simple survivability. Yeah, so that's my set. Oh, sorry, Paragon. I already have a ton of movement speed that's built into my gear. Already have almost the max amount on my gear items, so I don't need to put it in here. I could put some points in the vitality because that's what builds thorns, but I'd rather put in strength, increase a little bit more strength. That's just personal for me. Again, I'm not one of those top end players. I'm just more like, well, what do I like? What feels good to me? What's my style? Yeah, I'll never be as good as those guys, which is fine. First thing I'm going to put into is cooldown reduction, because I want to get these abilities off their cooldowns fast as possible, especially this bombardment. That's a long cooldown. This is what's going to do most of my damage right here. Critical hit chance, attack speed, critical hit damage. I'll be working on those. Defense, so I'm going to put, well, I get summon a life, resist all. You get more survivability from those than you do from armor. And then area damage first. Then I decide to do life on hit. Resource can. Actually, I should put this into gold find. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. Because I don't have resource cost. Period. This build has no resource, which is a great thing. Because as I said, already Blizzard has given you gear and a build that if you use it, you can constantly be DPSing. You could be doing something and not be standing around like, okay, all my abilities are on cooldown. I can't do anything. I can't damage until they come up. I'm going to run around. Who wants to do this? That's what this is for. And it's anyway already baked into the gear so you can do some damage. And you never, ever worry about being out of wrath. This will never move. This will never change. You never need to put any points, skills, or abilities in this. Okay, so anyway, I think this is gone. 18 minutes. This is a little long. I want to do something to demonstrate, but actually I have videos you can look at. They demonstrate exactly what I'm doing. If for some reason I change something, if the Blizzard gods should prevail and I should be able to get all the ancient items that I'm looking for so I can switch over to Legacy of Nightmare and get that stuff rolling, man, yeah, then I'll switch over and do that and start doing videos on that. I already have another Crusader that's non-seasonal. He's over 800 Paragon. He's using Legacy of Nightmare. I think it's, what is it, the shield? Oh, shoot. Shield toss. Give me a sec. Alright, he's doing a Blessed Shield. He's got the Blessed Shield build. He's doing Greater Rift 70. And I'm doing 60 with this build. But the top end players are doing something very similar to this, but it's mostly Legacy of Nightmare. They'll have different abilities. Most of them won't be using Punish at all, period. They'll have so much cooldown reduction that they can just ride this guy non-stop throughout the whole entire instance. You already see it's coming up pretty fast. I mean, you know, I said 2 seconds. Okay, let's watch this. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008. Okay, so I could be wrong, but 8 seconds. So already I do have a significant amount of cooldown. but once you get that up to the right amount, this horse would never be on cooldown for you, and you can be up on your horse almost all the time, and then you will be building like it'll be almost a steed charge build where the steed charge is almost as important as bombardment. You can pop all these abilities. Again, this is your thorns damage increased by 300%. Then you're adding 500% on top of that for whatever thorns you have at the time. So you pop this, you got that, you ride around on your horsey, and it's doing 500% of that, and it's a lot of damage. Okay, I said I was going to stop, so I keep going on. Thank you for coming to my channel. Please come back, subscribe if you want to. See you later, dudes.